Working in customer support is never easy. Working in tech support? I can't even imagine. Welcome to this episode of Tales from Tech Support. Our first one is from Chocolate Bourbon. I helped someone last year automate part of their duties. She spent about 6 weeks a quarter building a report for our leadership, so about half her time was devoted to this. The solution I built, like everything I make, used existing tools and data sources. And like everything I make, it was a little crude. A quick and dirty solution that required a couple pushes and occasional maintenance when she wanted changes, or would get herself into trouble. But it worked! Unless something went wrong, it made a 6-week process into, I think, about an hour total. But every quarter, at least one thing would go wrong. In all cases, I found the root cause was the user attempting to do something my solution wasn't designed to do, and then she, eager to help as she is, would try to fix things herself, which would always make it worse. In all cases, I simply reverted to an earlier version and she's back in business. My user approached a more experienced team to get something that would do an even better job. The team declined as what she already had performed adequately, and they needed us to focus on revenue-generating projects. So she continued using what I made. And every quarter, we did this dance where she runs into trouble and I bail her out. Once I got used to this, I did no troubleshooting and just reverted, so it took me very little time. She would typically spend the time my solution saved her by prettying up the text in the presentation, helping out coworkers, doing other little manual tasks here and there for her team, and teaching herself how to use the tools I'd employed to create the solution for her. Then last month, my user mentioned that they were still spending some weeks per quarter doing more aggregating and parsing. I told her that everything she was doing as part of that effort, I could automate too. And I'd gotten experienced at using 2 powerful tools my company had that could handle everything she needed. One tool could ingest, aggregate, and parse the data. The other one could create nice tables and charts and such. Combined, I could add more functionality and make her interventions impossible. So a stable, better product. She'd just have to update bits of the text here and there. I finished making it and she was thrilled. Now the quarterly report process was down to maybe a few days, a week at most, and it consisted almost entirely of updating text in the deck and verifying it's what people wanted. So she had gone from spending at least 70% of her time creating this thing down to maybe 5 to 10%. She was looking forward to moving on from the report to other things, which she did. She moved on right out of the company. I liked her. She was always trying to learn. Even when she was creating havoc, it normally made sense. And her havoc was getting more sophisticated as time went on. And I never complained about her havoc, as it came from such a good place. I wondered if this would happen. I'd hoped not, but that's how it goes. So now it's possible that I will take over creating this report and the accompanying deck, which has frustrated my boss. She wants us to be the team who builds solutions, not the team who accumulates random duties. She suspects the other team's manager waited until they had someone ready to take over building the report, which that manager now has indicated is me. I have hopes to dodge this assignment, as I am not a SME on the data itself, only the machine that massages it, but I suppose I'll find out when the next fiscal quarter starts. My backup plan is to be a nuisance to my old user's team with endless questions, some of which will be justified. With luck, they will assign a resource to handle report creation for a few days, and I continue on as a technical resource. I mean, I get it's one thing to want to utilize tools to make your job easier, but if you're asking somebody to outright pretty much end up automating everything you do, then what is it exactly that you do? And our final one is by Spetty23. This is a classic story of work avoidance by blaming IT. Way back, I used to work the night shift at a hospital that ran 24/7. Help desk was 24/7, but all other IT operations were mainly done during business hours. Important to this story is that the help desk was a different physical location to the hospital. As help desk resources were kept minimal after hours, even if we were on site, anything after hours that requires actually looking at something at the user's work locations was a ticket to be looked at during business hours. There was one user who only worked nights. They would somewhat frequently call with their PC being offline. When they called, their PC was always actually offline, not pingable. They can't access network resources. The call would usually go with, "Can you check cables? Is it only affecting you? Have you restarted? Okay, we'll get someone to take a look at it in person tomorrow." Strangely enough, when someone went to go look at it the next day, the PC was always back online, working perfectly. As no other fault could be found, it was assumed to be an intermittent issue with the PC or network cable. The PC was swapped out and network cable changed. However, we would still get the occasional, "My PC isn't working again," calls from this user. Suspecting there might be an issue with the network rather than the PC, a ticket is logged to the networks team. Luckily, the network team used syslogs, so they had a good record of logs from the network switches. What they could see, what at the time the calls were logged by this user, a few minutes after their shift began, the network log showed that the network port the computer was attached to was going down. A few minutes before their shift ended, the network log showed the network port the computer was attached to as coming up. There was no other related log entries between these two entries, and they always occurred at the same time of the day, only when this user was on shift. It almost seemed as if this person was unplugging their network cable when they started their shift and plugging it back in when they went home. But we couldn't really outright accuse the user of this without proof. To eliminate a switch port issue, the network teams replaced the patch cable, moved to a different switch port, and even went so far as to change to using a different port between the patch panel and wall port. So now literally everything has been replaced between the switch port and the computer, including the actual computer itself. Another IT team was performing some unrelated works at that hospital that night after hours, and this user was about due for another unexpected PC offline issue. I mentioned to that team what was going on and asked, although it's not something we usually do, if this user calls up again, could they quickly go over and see what the cause was. I do mention, it almost seems as if they're unplugging the network cable for the duration of their shift, but in a way that isn't directly accusing them of that. As predicted, the user calls, and I do my usual log a ticket, and then contact the team on site. They go to that location and, sure enough, the network cable is unplugged, but still resting on the port so it appears plugged in. They covertly take a photo. The next morning, the usual on-site team takes another photo. This time it shows the cable fully plugged in. Now we are sure the user is intentionally disconnecting the network, very likely to avoid doing work due to IT issues. Performance management and discipline isn't IT's role, but we do let their manager know and forward all the proof we have. They did mention that user seemed to be having a lot of IT issues lately. A few days later, we get a user termination request, and I'm sure you can guess who it was for. It makes you wonder how long this user was trying to come up with this little scheme where they could get paid for work but not actually work, especially taking advantage of the fact that things wouldn't be looked at until actual business hours. Definitely don't think they expected that midnight check. Alright, that's enough tales for the day. Well, that wraps up this episode of Tales from Tech Support. If you liked the video, please drop a like, share my content on all of your social media, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to hit that bell so you're notified every time I upload, and drop a comment down below. It really helps with the algorithm and helps new people find my channel. Thanks for watching, thanks to my patrons and super thanks contributors. Have a great day and stay safe out there.